This is the Horsepower Hour.
Yes, hello and welcome to another of the Horsepower Hour. I am your host, as always, Andy. Joining me is the wonderful, the magnificent Poison Masterson. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
So, dude, we've got some internet today. I do have to admit, as people can see from behind me, we are going live from my RV. So there could be some strange noises. Who knows?
Yeah.
Coy promised me that he would not fire up the fart machine today, but that is not like a hard and fast promise because he does have his microphone out. So if Coy feels like standing up and letting one rip, I mean, it's just that's the way she goes.
I mean, technically, there's always a fart machine in the studio. Like, I don't have to have the button programmed. I'm in here.
You always got one chambered, son. That's what makes you
Yeah.
a professional.
Yeah. You never go to sleep dry. You know what I mean? You always have one chambered.
Hashtag mud butt. All right, man. Talk to me about what's good. What's going on?
I can go back to the MR2 axle saga. Been
Ooh,
tinkering with that. Went ahead and I remember telling you, I think last, that I'd tried everything to get it off, and then went from 6-sided to 1-sided because I made the axle nut round.
yes.
So I went ahead and angle ground that hub all to pieces, cut that nut off, and it came right off.
What?
When Horde, yeah, once it was round, I was done. So I just checked the price of a new hub. It was $40, and I just went straight into it with an angle grinder on the edge of that nut, which had to go straight into the hub, obviously. And yeah, made some deep lines in that hub. So I got it off, got it taken off, then went ahead and went to take the ABS sensor off.
Mhm.
It didn't want to leave its home. I slowly, carefully worked it, soaked it in some penetrating oil, just gentle wiggles, gentle pries with a screwdriver. It started moving, it started coming out. As I popped it out, I saw the 10,000 feet of copper windings from the inside. I just slowly pulled it apart, actually, is what happened. I thought I was getting it. So I went ahead and ordered me another one of those. That was another $26. Bearings, C-clip, all the stuff. Went ahead and ordered a new idler pulley for it because I needed one. I could hear it going.
Mhm.
And all that is not fun parts, as I tell my wife. These are not fun parts. These are more work for me parts. These are not go
Sure.
fast parts or cool parts. But I
It's not
did
a
go
forced
ahead.
upgrade.
Yeah, this is not the kind this is not the kind of car parts I would like to buy. These are the kind of car parts I have to buy.
Yes.
Unwillingly have to buy. So, I decided with all this, I will get one fun part for me, and I went ahead and ordered some new lug nuts. I went with white, extended open
Ooh.
end. Yeah, getting
So
fancy.
are they like anodized or how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know, they're on eBay for like $23, so probably not. Uh,
So probably when you get them, it's gonna immediately flake off is what I'm hearing?
Almost certainly, but they don't match the ones I have. And I went ahead and for the new hubs, I bought some ARP extended uh lugs or lug bolts. I don't know what you call them. Lug threads, lug studs.
Mhm.
So they're an inch longer than stock. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick those in there and stick them on the other side and in the front, and then hopefully I can grow into those with giant wheels and things.
Sure, of course.
Yeah,
Well, that
22.
that
You know what
sounds
I'm saying?
I mean, that sounds like everything you need to do. I actually tried to race a Camaro today. It sounded like a V8. I assume it was a V8, but it was on some, like, 26-inch donk wheels, and, dude wouldn't race me, and so I feel like your MR2, if you don't go at least 22s, you're outclassed, son.
Well, you always go full donk because you're fast and you're also you're mobile if it floods. You know what I'm saying?
E Yes, exactly. It's sorta like when people put, like, big wheels and tires on their UTV. Have you ever seen those Mudslinger UTVs?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
They've got, like, the tractor 19-inch wheels that are only, like, 3 inches wide. and then they put the agricultural tires on them. They're the tires that what are the like the orchard picker tractors use, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
actually
those
seen a
are
bunch of those.
ridiculous. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, you're literally in swamp country. You're in the glades, bro.
If I was in the glades, I might be a little happier because that means I'd be able to shoot me an alligator.
You're not in alligator country. You couldn't get to a gator. You
No
can't call
alligators here.
you can't call one in.
I can't, dude. So apparently we have some feral hogs and we have a lot of deer, a lot of white-tailed deer in the area we're moving to, but no go on the alligator. I was very much looking forward to being able to shoot my own alligator. As a matter of fact, I was looking forward to just popping it on my property. You know, I got that single shot 16 gauge shotgun and went to Walmart, bought a box of 16 gauge buckshot. Literally, it's got 4 balls in it. So I mean, it's not the
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's
It's
not
not
the smallest.
small. Yeah, it's big stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I figured, hey, I'd get to waste my first alligator. No chance, no chance. We don't have any alligators where I'm at.
How far do you gotta go to get to a gator?
Well, I got to hit some swampy water, man. So I'm gonna have to go over to Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe the Alabama frenulum.
Yeah, yeah, we've talked about that before. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
We had a couple of people that reached out to me and said frenulum, Coy's right. That's 100% right. So, you know, I called it a skin tag. You called it the frenulum. I understand now. That's, you know, there's a difference there. And I appreciate when people reach out to me and correct me on that stuff. You want to come on and correct me about something that I have screwed up on, you can come over to the Horsepower Hour Facebook group. It's facebook.com/the, or excuse me, facebook.com/group/the Horsepower Hour. The page is facebook.com/the Horsepower Hour. And while you're there, I think you should go and support our summer long sponsor, Santiam Powder Coating. Boy, last week we gave away a free powder coated set of wheels, or rather a powder coating of a person's wheels. That was amazing. And we gave away a 20% off coupon. I want to thank both of our winners, by the way. Reached out to them last week and they were both very appreciative, which is not something I'm used to. Usually I let people know that they want something for free and they're like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. Nice try, ISIS. Um,
Yeah, exactly. No, I won't subscribe to your OnlyFans.
yeah, we've all been there.
Well, we've all been duped. So, you know, I'm not
I
even
once won something on like a meme, captioned this meme on the Overland Bound page. I won a t-shirt and I believe 2 years went by. I believe it was 2 years that went by and I had reached out to the guy like 6 weeks after and he's like, "Oh, totally forgot. Yeah, I'll be right out to you." And, gave him my address. And then like 2 years later, I just wrote and said, "Starting to feel like you're not going to send me my t-shirt." And dude was like, "Oh my god." And he sent me a t-shirt and flags and stickers, all kinds of swaggy crap, that I didn't need, but it was funny. I was like going through old messages like, "Oh yeah, I want a t-shirt from this guy." Boom. Feel like I'm not gonna get that t-shirt. And yeah, I got the t-shirt though, so it worked out good.
I'm just saying, like, I might have actually found it funnier if the dude was like, nice try, ISIS, and then just blocked you.
That would have been awesome. I would have found it funnier as well.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of overlanding, I saw something on the road the other day. And I'm trying to figure this out, man, because in Florida, I feel like we talked about this already, but golf carts, they're allowed on public streets as long as the road is 45 mile per hour or less posted speed limit. And you
Yeah,
can't go
yeah.
over, I think it's 23 miles an hour or something like that. Like there's some regulations, you know. Uh, more and more, like in increasing amounts, I've seen people driving around Kawasaki mules, rhinos, Polaris Rangers. Like a dude passed me a few days ago, and he was on a Polaris 900 EFI, and I'm like, "Hey, motherfucker! I know that thing's not topping out at 23." He was doing like
Yeah.
70 past me. No,
Oh,
no seat belts. He
he
had two
wasn't like
kids.
passing you on the highway. He was passing you like you were going too slow.
Yes, I was driving 35 miles an hour, and he was just like, "No!" And it was a dude, what I assume is like his wife or maybe his big titted girlfriend, I don't know. But then they had 2 kids on a jump seat in the back where the dump bed would be, but they put a jump seat back there. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think a cop might see that and say, you get me?
I think that's a newspaper article that starts with Florida man wrecks UTV on state highway, killing wife and 2 children. Yeah,
Going
something like
70. I mean, he was not going slow. Maybe he was doing like 55, but down the because the sidewalks are these double wide sidewalks. As a matter of fact, today I was driving down to the store and I saw the postal Jeep, like your normal just postal truck, right? Driving along the sidewalk. It's the double wide sidewalk that's meant for golf carts, but
mhm.
the postal person, and granted, the mailboxes, they were up on the sidewalk, and so that I'm sure that is the easiest way to get to it. But I was just cruising past this postal Jeep, and it's driving down the fucking sidewalk, and I'm like, "Huh, okay." And it was a woman driving, so by the way, it would have been Florida woman kills 5, 2 children included with a Jeep truck, but, or excuse me, a mail truck. Those aren't Jeeps anymore, are they? Well, who makes those? Is it Grumman?
Yeah, Cushman, I don't know. It's one of those.
Garrett would know if he was here.
I'm sure it would. Uh, yeah, I also went to the Oregon Trail Rally stage at PIR, the 2 stages there. I think I
Ooh.
told you last week I was considering going, and old buddy, that we used to run with, Jason, reached out to me. I was like, "Hey, you gonna be at PIR this weekend?" I was like, "I don't know, should I?" And he was like, "Well, Oregon Trail Rally's doing 2 stages there before they go up the gorge, and I don't know, they're doing, like, Goldendale, Washington or something. The rest, I don't know how many more stages, 7 more stages up that way, 2 days worth." And I was like, I just might." And I headed up. It rained all day. It stopped raining just in time for their stages and, got really cold. And I showed up and watched them run. They went down. They started at the, top of pit lane, went down pit lane, did a big U-ey up the front straight of Portland International Raceway, through the chicane, and right at the beginning of turn 3, they had some cones up, and they cut off between some stadium stands, seating, went through the dirt and stuff out back, cut across the track somewhere farther around by the back straight, and then went over by, like, where the motorcycle track is on the inside, did some stuff back there and came back in. So, I mean, they ran a car every 30 seconds, so it goes pretty quick. There's, I don't know, 40, 50 cars seem like. Uh,
Legit.
no, Jake asked if I volunteered. No, I did not volunteer. I just watched. A lot of guys are into rally, volunteer there. I'm not really into rally. I'm into motorsports, but not particularly rally. But like, I still am enjoy the sport, so I go. But I'm not gonna spend time volunteering for a sport that I'm not really super passionate about. Basically,
Sure.
got a picture with Ken Block. It was kind of cool. Um,
Oh,
I
so did you have
actually
like a half a chub? Did you get wet?
Well, I'm actually not a huge I mean, I respect Ken Block for what he is. He's a rich guy who's living the dream, but I'm not a big Ken Block fan necessarily. Like, I don't have anything against him, but I'm not into the guy as a fan. I
Well,
pointed
somewhat
out to my
famously, we've talked quite a bit of shit out of about
Yeah,
Ken
I mean,
Block.
a lot of it's out of jealousy, to be honest. Like, I mean, he's, a rich guy that's turned his life into this automotive dream and Hoonigan videos and all that, but I'm not a huge fan of him as a driver because I feel like with the same amount of money, I could be probably less money. I could be an equal driver is what kind of how I feel. Whereas there are other drivers that I know I'll never be them. Like, I genetically don't have it. So those are the guys I am more fans of. Nice guy though. I pointed him out to my wife, like, check it out, it's Ken Block. She's like, who's Ken Block? I'm like, owns DC shoes. He has a kid that's like a professional skateboarder. And now he does rally stuff and all the and I was like, "Oh, I remember who he is." And, she's like, "Just get in line, take a picture." I'm like, "I'm not waiting in a line to get a picture with Ken Block. I'm not it's fine." And she's like, "Oh, oh." And I turn around, she's in line. I'm like, "Do you want a picture with Ken Block?" And she's like, "No, I'm holding a place for you." And I'm like, "I don't it's fine." So, I grabbed both my kids and got a picture with Ken Block because I was forced to. Travis Pastrana was there. Literally the nicest guy in the world. I I could not believe how nice he was. I had a couple-minute conversation with him, but I mean, he goes out, thrashes the car, comes back. Um, 18 mechanics crawl all over this thing. They're just going nuts, and he just gets out, walks up. Subaru's, you can really tell in pit lane because it's Oregon Trail Rally actually starts out as a regional. There's regional and national rally going on. So there's
And
local.
wait, sorry to interrupt, but just real quick, Eric Ewers says, "With more money, I could be a worse driver." Same sentiment I have, by the way.
It's possible that way too. Yeah. Uh, but yeah, so there's literally guys with like broken down Tahoes and flatbed rusty trailers bringing their rally hoopties in, and then Team Subaru is at the top of pit lane with 4 semis. You know what I mean? So you, it's literally like the poorest form of rallying, some beat up like gambler looking machine with a cage, and then Travis Pastrana and the other Subaru car, God knows who that guy is, and all of Subaru. Uh, and it slowly gets more and more, but Subaru is clearly spending 100% of their race budget at this because they literally have, I think, 3 semis and 2 cars, and I mean they have it's literally that looks like they have 10 mechanics or 10 people crawling over the cars. They had like a table in the back with like craft services going on, a full freaking buffet. Uh yeah. But but he literally just gets out of the car and there's kind of like a little fake fence thing there. He just walks up, people are holding stuff to sign. He grabs a sign, he's just chilling and talking, just moving from person to person. Legit the nicest guy ever. Just spent his whole time mingling with the fans. And I walked up, talked to him a little bit. My kids had some, they're giving away like posters for them to get signed. So they got those signed. They got Travis Pastrana's navigator, co-driver, whatever we're calling him in rally now,
Mhm.
sign it as well. No idea what her name is. It's something European sounding. There was basically a Toyota Yaris there that was had an all-wheel drive conversion out of like Argentina. That
Hmm.
thing was mean as fuck. I super super fell in love with that thing. Super beastie. There was a bunch of European cars there. Some guys shipped a bunch of cars over. They had like 4 guys driving for the European team. Um, they didn't have the full semi setup, but once again, they were rolling pretty nice there. They were all Festivas, all-wheel drive Festivas.
Fiestas.
Sorry, Fiestas. Yes, you're right. Basically,
I'm
Focus RS, but
Look, if they had if they had all-wheel drive Festivas there, I would have shot myself in the dick for missing that.
yeah, no, I God, I should have just been like, no, seriously, I lost the picture, but wait for you to shoot yourself in the dick. Uh, so yeah, that's pretty much went down.
That's amazing, dude. That's amazing. And it lends credence to what I always say. If these manufacturers would just focus on making a super hot all-wheel drive turbo version of their smallest vehicles, they would absolutely crush and everyone would buy them. Like if Toyota came out with an all-wheel drive turbo Yaris, as they have done, by the way, what's the new isn't it the Yaris GR that's in Europe and they're gonna
Gazoo, yeah, Gazoo Racing.
yeah, and they're gonna bring it over as the Corolla GR here, I think.
Yeah, it'll be a 4-door hatch, which I expected less, so I'm getting something. I would prefer a 2-door, but like we're getting something. So
Well, I would prefer it to be like a Toyota IQ, quite frankly.
yeah, I mean, if it's all-wheel drive and turbo 3 in it, yeah, I'll take I'll take a Toyota IQ for sure.
Look, at this point, I've already lowered my IQ, so at what point can I actually literally lower my IQ? You get me?
Yeah, no, I get it.
I didn't do anything nearly as cool, Coy. The coolest thing I did this past week, which pales in comparison to what you did, was on Monday about 9:15 p.m. I walked across the street and then, dipped my toes into the Gulf Ocean because I don't know if I mentioned, but we're living across the street from the ocean right now. And sat down, hung out with my wife for a bit, watched the SpaceX capsule re-enter the atmosphere. It was like a fireball streak across the sky. It was very romantic. And then once that was done, we kind of sat and hung out in the water because we had bioluminescent plankton that was washing up. And so these like I don't know, it looked like fireflies in the water green and blue kind of washed across our feet. It was pretty amazing. Probably not as amazing as meeting Ken Block. It sounds like he gave you the real Trump treatment, like just sort of walked around, you know, kissing hands and shaking babies, and was like signing everything and talking about making Mount Rally great again. But still pretty cool nonetheless.
Look, I know your weather's nice and all, but I just want you to understand right now we're under a flood warning because we're getting so much rain.
Really,
So, you might have bioluminescent plankton, SpaceX re-entering over your head, 72-degree weather across from the Gulf of Mexico. That's all great. But dude, flood warning. How cool is that, right? And
I
it's
mean,
it's raining like inches per day, which is
mhm.
super cool, but it's also unseasonably warm. It was like 59 degrees today.
59. Wow.
Yeah, so I was soaking wet and I wasn't even really cold.
That's
Yeah.
crazy,
So,
dude. Good, we
super
got a
cool.
little bit of rain today, not like a ton, but just, a light sprinkling. It was like an ocean mist
Mhm.
here in Panama City Beach, and it was 76 degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you have a long, long penis so that you can use it to literally fuck yourself, Andy. Just so you know that.
Yeah, yeah. People should be on the lookout because tomorrow I'm going to make my way over to the Emerald City Cruise Inn. It's here in Panama City Beach. It's a swap meet, big hot rod event. Actually, the RV park we're staying in has completely filled up. There's, I don't know, 6 or 7 hot rodders here. People have brought their cars in on trailers and stuff. And I'm going to go and try to hit that up tomorrow. So that should be an interesting, cool time. Fortunately, the weather's coming back around. It's going to be 75 and sunny and clear. So that's going to be awful, just terrible for me. I wish I was there with you, Koi. I'm there in spirit. As a matter of fact, our mutual friend Scott messaged me the other day and he said, "Hey, buddy, the 40-degree rain really misses you." And I got to say, the feeling is not mutual.
Not mutual. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not nice weather. But I'm gonna go, actually go hang out with our buddy Garrett and, our friend Aaron this weekend. We're gonna go out in the middle of Brothers, Oregon, which is just middle of the desert, and there's some kind of rocketry club owned area that you can launch rockets off, and Aaron's son built a bunch of the Estes model rockets, and we're gonna launch them off, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Bro, you and I used to be way into those rockets. I shouldn't say way into. What we would do is like shoot them at each other.
Yeah, yeah, and build rocket cars and send my brother to the hospital and all kinds of stuff. Uh, but yeah, no, it's been cool. He's trying to talk me into buying some, and I'm like, I don't know if I have time. I'm looking, I'm like, order it. And he's like buying the ready to fly ones. I'm like, no, you got to paint these things. Like if I get one, I'm not buying something that's ready to fly. Like I need the one I got to put together because it's 4 inches around and
Mhm.
32 inches tall. Uses a D engine, so I'm holding off. We'll see how much of the kids like this, but I may buy a couple rockets. Might show up for Christmas or something, and yeah, this could be a fun adventure that the family does
Well,
occasionally.
I'm going to point out, don't don't sleep on the smaller rockets that use the smallest engine is the A-sized engine, right, Koi?
Half A.
Half A. So if you
Mhm.
go one step up from that, that's the A-sized engine. However, some of those A-sized engines have a 12-second burn, and you can also get the ones that have a 12-second burn with a 0 second delay for the parachute charge. And then
Mhm.
what you do is you stack 3 of them sons of bitches on top of each other and just go ahead and get that rocket stuck in the sky.
See, I don't like getting my rockets stuck in the sky. I originally was like, when I first got into rockets, I'm like, "Ooh, this one goes 1,200 feet. Perfect." And then I'm like, "Ooh, this one's 1,500. Yes." And then I'd launch them up in the air, and you'd wait, and you'd wait, and then somebody would be like, "Oh, I see a parachute." And you're like, "That's at least a mile from me." And then you're on your bicycle, like, riding, and it's gone, or you find it, and it's in the power line somewhere. So I started getting the biggest one I could get with the biggest motor that it would take, but with the longest delay, so it would have some time to fucking fall back to earth before the parachute, uh, came out, and I always like the bigger ones better because when they're struggling to launch, it looks little bit more realistic, like, you get a little more enjoyment time, instead of
Yeah.
those super lightweight little guys where you hit it, it's like, and you're like, "Oh, it's gone." Yeah, it is. Broke my neck trying to follow it, but I like that that kind of where they're like trembling trying to take off, and you get 300-400 feet at most. I
Well,
prefer that.
Jake says he's got a D engine for Yukoi. So I remember one of the rockets that I had, and you could literally shoot it off in the backyard because it would only go up like 40 feet. It was super heavy, but it was one of those ones where it had propellers that would pop out, and so it would propeller itself back down. Do you remember that one, Coy?
That was one of my favorite ones I've ever been around. It never flew away. It never got stuck in the sky. It always came down. You could see it like, yeah, those ones at seed are some of my favorite ones.
Well, yeah, and plus, when you could put the big engines in them, and it still only would go 50 feet in the air, but, like, it looked like the Apollo rocket going off because it was, and it was going super slow up into the air, and you're 100% right. There's something much more satisfying about those than the small ones that just go zoop and they're gone.
Yeah, it's like a overpowered bottle rocket without the explosion at the end. Well, not always, but
Right, right.
if you do it right without the explosion.
About
Yeah,
half the time I'd pack my parachute too tight, and so it would go up, and I'd be like, "Alright, it's coming down. When's the parachute gonna come down? Fuck, it's not coming down." And it would just spear itself down into the ground.
I
And
had a
also, to just let people know, I am full potato when I joke about that sometimes. I was 100% born this way because I used to build model rockets out of hot glue because I was too impatient to use regular glue, and then I'd be pissed when the fins would melt off. I was like, "What the fuck?"
yeah, I actually had one do that once as well. I don't know if I packed the parachute too tight or had too much of the, I don't remember what it's called now, the parachute protection paper that you put between the parachute and your, uh, rocket detonation that pops the parachute out. I had this one, it was called a Prowler, and it was literally, I think it was 36 inches long, almost as big around as a Coke can, like big boy. And I launched that thing up with like a C67 charge. So it got 300 feet and then it just started nosing down. I'm waiting for the parachute to pop and it didn't. And that thing just knifed straight into the ground. But luckily it was like in my neighbors had this swamp and it just pile drove itself in there. I'm like, dude, this thing's destroyed. And it's a 3 foot rocket. Like it was work to put it together and build it and paint it and all the stuff. I went over and slowly pulled that thing out of the ground, dried it off. It was fine. Like the mud was so soft, it just speared itself. Like that's the only one that ever failed and I got back safely. The rest would just, like a regular rocket crashing, they just fly into pieces.
When it's difficult because, I mean, shit like that, hell, man, that's a durable good, you get something like that for yourself, your parents, they don't like it. My parents, I mean, they weren't exactly, a super fan of me doing it, and then when they broke, it was actually like a sigh of relief to the parents. They were like, "Oh, thank God, this thing is gone." And so when you had it as a kid, breaking one of those meant you weren't getting another one for a while,
Oh, yeah, they
and,
were durable goods, for
yeah.
sure. Like, I remember getting that, and the ones you put together back then, like, you get them for, like, 20 bucks. They weren't super expensive, but the engines were like a 3 pack was, like, I don't know, 12 bucks, 10 bucks or something. So I'd get, like, 20 bucks for my birthday and Christmas, and I would buy the rocket, but then I would have to beg and scrimp to get the motors. So when I finally went to launch that thing, I was like, "All right, I got 3 motors and I gotta make this last." Like, I'm not just setting them all off now because my dad's not gonna buy me more motors for 2 months. Like, I gotta work on this. So there's a lot of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've literally got 4 zombies and 3 shots, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Alright, we gotta make some shit work here."
The nice thing about kinda getting back into childhood toys when you're an adult, though, is your budget's so much different. I'm looking through on this Stay website, and I just like, "Ooh, that" I can't remember which one it's called. It's like the Tandem or something, but you literally it's like 2 rockets side by side hooked together, so it has 2 motors.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it launches 2 motors simultaneously, and as a kid, I was just like, "I can't that's the coolest rocket ever, but I can't burn 2 motors with 1 launch, like, just can't do it." And I'm sitting
Oh,
there, I'm like, "Ooh, who who gives a fuck if I burn 2 motors at once? I'll buy 10." Like, I don't care. I'm gonna get that one, and I'm just like, "Man, how much more are D and E and F motors?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck it. I could probably get one with I'll bump it up. Like, why would I stay in the C sides? Like, I can get bigger motors." Yeah. Start
and when
rolling through.
when we were kids, we would look at the D and E size motors, and we would just sit there in awe because they were like 20 bucks a piece, and I knew I could never afford that, you know?
No, when you got the rocket, it came with a catalog, of other rockets that you just look through, but like, man, I wish my dad was rich. Like, I'd probably be sitting in his Learjet just deciding which one I'd get next instead of waiting another year to buy a rocket with my Christmas money. Yeah. There were a couple things that I always used to wonder what kind of Rockefeller could afford. That would always be that would these 3 toys, and it would be other rockets that were, the nice, like, F and E size rockets, the big ones. I was like, I guess if you're a scientist and you're doing experiments, the government funds you or something, or Pfizer, gives you $100,000 grant, and you get to get these F motors for $48 each. So I always assumed that that was for only super rich people. The other one was Legos. I would get like a $20 Lego set at Christmas, but then that would also come with a catalog. There would be like the whatever version of Legos where it's the Aquanauts or whatever castles, knights, dragons, whatever. There
Yeah.
would be like the castle or the fucking underwater submarine base the size of a card table. And back then they were like $100 for the whole set, but I'd just be like, huh, I wonder wonder whose dad owns a Ferrari dealership that gets them this. Like, who could afford this? It's $100. That's worth 5 of the best kits I've ever had, you know?
Right, right.
Like,
And,
who would? Who would be able to buy a $100 Lego thing? And
and
now I'm
Corey,
just like, "Whatever."
well, this is the perfect segue into our news, my friend.
Oh,
I wanna
you
go ahead
wanna know
and
what the other toy is? I said 3,
uh,
1 more.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Mini bikes, like a Briggs those Briggs& and Stratton mini bikes you'd get in like a it was kinda like a Harbor Freight catalog back then. They're called
Yep.
like Northern Hydraulics. I think they're called Northern now. There'd always be 2 or 3 in there, but they'd be $549. And I always just thought, like, what kind of kid coulda get one of these? Like, his dad's a hitman, and he just has $50,000 of cash a week. Like, I'd always just sit there and stare at it, just be like, "Who who could who could afford this?"
So the one for me, I think it was like $1,100, and it was 11s, right? Because it was $1,100. It was 11 horsepower. It was this go-kart that had 2 motors on it, and each motor was 5.5 horsepower, and, uh, and it was connected to a solid axle, and it was a dual engine go-kart. I remember thinking, "That's you'd have to be like you said, you'd have to be a Rockefeller, like, you'd have to have an in with the CIA." I mean, who
Yeah.
who can even afford to have something like this? Because I remember when I was looking at it.
$1,100, I just assumed, like, that was literally would be used at like, that go-kart was for exhibitions at drag strips or something. Like, it was so far out. Like I was just like, "Yeah, there's, like that just doesn't hapen." Like,
Yeah,
some dudes
exactly.
over on the sand dunes probably just tearing it up in this, some, like, coked out cartel son kid, But that's yeah, I just couldn't understand it.
He's using it to outrun the, Coast Guard, something like that. The thing about
Exactly.
what we're talking about here, though, is, we're now in this weird area where everything is affordable, almost everything. There's
Oh,
still exclusivity on certain things, but almost anything you want. You can go to Walmart, get a 4K TV for $300. You can, I mean, computers are a little bit more expensive right now, but do you want a PlayStation 4? Get one on Craigslist for 150. This is a weird time where almost everything is affordable. And following along that trend, I wanted to talk first of all about the Ford Maverick, Coy. I don't know if you've seen this article or not, but this thing is it is selling like hotcakes. So right now, this is the cheapest hybrid vehicle on the market. You can pick one of these up for about $21,500. Ford, well, the EPA estimate on this Ford is 40 miles to the gallon in town because again, it is a hybrid vehicle. It's even cheaper than the Prius. The cheapest Prius you can get is more expensive than this small pickup truck that has a hybrid system and it gets 40 miles to the gallon. I mean, I never thought we would get to a point in our lives where an entry level pickup would be an electric front wheel drive pickup.
yeah, I have you seen one of these in person yet?
I have.
Oh, really? I have not seen one yet. I've not seen a single one. I drive by dealers, I look over, occasionally I see a Bronco. I do not see one of these Mavericks. I know they're claiming they outsold Hyundai. I don't understand how, because at least in the Northwest where I'm at, I haven't seen one. Haven't seen one on the road. I haven't gone in a dealership and looked for one, but usually the new cool shit they have sitting out front, I would assume
Mhm.
they'd have that out there with the, 1999 price tag so they get you in to buy a F-150. I haven't seen one at all, so I don't know who they're selling them to, but I haven't seen any out here.
Well, I'll tell you right now, on our trip across the country, when we started hitting some bigger cities, California, bigger cities in Texas, even here in Panama City Beach, there are so many more vehicles sitting on the lots here than there were in Oregon. So I don't know how the shortage is affecting Oregon more than it's affecting us down here. But there are a number of Mavericks I've seen on the road. There are some in the lot of the Ford dealership down here, and I don't think they look bad at all. I have to ask you though, when's the last time you saw a a Hyundai Santa Fe Cruise going down the road?
Well, that's a not a fair question because one of the guys I work with drives one of those and he parks next to me every morning in the parking lot, so I see one
Mm,
5 days a week.
gotcha. And so
It's not super nice or anything.
what do you think about the size of that? I mean, kind of comparing it to like a Honda Ridgeline.
You know, I don't know, man. I like these Ford Mavericks a lot actually, and especially for the price point. I'm just curious if are they really gonna be a throwaway vehicle, or are you gonna be able to get 200,000 miles out of these, you know? If they're gonna go the distance and you can get 200,000 miles and the thing costs 20 grand, like, why would you even buy a used car?
Well, that is a good thought. I don't think you're going to be able to get that kind of mileage out of the batteries. I'm trying to remember with the Priuses. I mean, your wife had a Prius. Do you remember when you guys were looking at those, how long the
The
batteries were supposed to
battery
last?
had a I'm pretty sure it was a 10-year, 200,000 mile warranty on the battery on the
Really?
Prius. It's I've never heard of someone replacing the batteries in their Prius, to be honest. Like, nobody once in a while, a cell will die, and back in the day, that used to mean the whole battery was junk if one cell died, but nowadays, they can just replace the bad cell. So, once in a while, you hear about somebody having a cell die, but that's not really the battery dying, that's usually just from vibration and stuff, something in the inside that cell comes apart and shorts out. So, it's not really like the battery's worn out, you just had one little piece fail, so and they just replaced that one cell. So, I
Sure.
don't you know
But the capacity of the battery overall, I've had some friends that bought used Priuses or Prii or whatever you want to call it, and they talked to me about how there's just this inherent knowledge that when you're buying a used Prius, you understand that you no longer are going to get the kind of range out of it that you did when it was new. You know, for every year, you can take off like 3% of battery range or something like that. So that has always stuck in my mind. Specifically, someone I know bought a Prius that was 5 or 6 years old. And I remember they were driving it around. They were trying to figure out what kind of range they were getting out of the battery pack. And it fell into the range of where they said it was, but it had lost at 8% of its capacity, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with use, any part's gonna wear, and that counts batteries, and batteries not only with use, but age. So, even if you're driving this thing only on the highway and never using the battery, just using the gas motor, maybe it's gonna last a little longer, but
Mhm.
you're still on a ticking clock. If you're in town and that battery is just constantly recharging and recycling, it's gonna be less, if you only drive in town. So, that's a downside, I guess, but, I mean, Priuses get 200,000 miles pretty much no problem on the regular. They're an
Mhm.
extremely reliable vehicle. So and obviously Toyota's been at the hybrid game kinda longer than everybody now. So maybe it's not a fair comparison, but if the Maverick can do most of that, you can get 200,000 miles out of that thing without having to do a real expensive battery rebuild or something.
Mhm.
Man, this is gonna sell like hotcakes. Like, I mean,
And I think it already is. So take a look at these stats real quick. July and August, obviously, the Santa Fe, or excuse me, the Santa Cruz was the only one available. Then halfway through September, the Ford Maverick became available, and instantly it started selling pretty well. And then you look at October of this year, and it sold more than double of the Hyundai Santa Cruz, and the trend, they're thinking the trend for sales is only going to continue to go up. And one of the strangest things about this whole thing for me has been the demographic of the people purchasing these vehicles, Coy. It has primarily been 18 to 35-year-olds purchasing these, which I don't know if I was expecting that.
Oh, I am. Absolutely. As you get older than 35, people are kind of for sure needing a bigger truck. People start buying toy haulers, horses, whatever. But under that range, like an 18-year-old, how many of those guys are hauling, RVs and large trailers? Slim to none. They want to bring some house plants home and haul some mountain bikes. And obviously younger people are, they were born in an era where hybrid cars existed, where you start getting over 35. I mean, I'm exactly 35 years old. I remember when the Prius came out and people were like, so that bias against electric cars as people get older, I think is also going to get stronger.
Mhm.
So, and obviously the younger you are, I mean, my kids are not, they're going to grow up in a world where Teslas are nicer than BMWs, like since they've been born. So by the time they're 20, they have no bias against an electric car. They're not going to know any different. So they're hitting that range. And also, I mean, it's 20 grand. Like it's cheap.
Right,
Sorry,
right.
inexpensive. Uh,
Right. Again, it comes back around to the way you and I grew up versus how kids are growing up now.
yeah. So yeah, you can't, I always used to say you could always tell the poor people by their clothes years ago, but nowadays you can't. Like everybody has as nice clothes as me. Poor people have a bigger TV than me, oftentimes. And a lot of times they're gonna get a $20,000 car. Like this is the downside and upside of capitalism, I guess. Yeah, maybe it does create some poverty, but it also equals out in a lot of ways because you can literally get a hybrid pickup brand new for $20,000.
I
And
think
so what's that work out to?
I
You
think
know?
some people would argue that that's how you lift people out of poverty, but, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I'm not. This is not a political podcast, and I'm not intend to make it one. But it is insane. It's kind of an equalizer. I mean,
Yeah.
it blows my mind that they're able to make it for that cheap. So I'm just hoping that it has some staying power.
Well, fortunately for us, the riches, because obviously you and I are much more well off than the poors, right?
Well, I am, but yeah,
Well,
I
fortunately
have
for us,
I have a 401k. Excuse me. Uh,
it's got $23,000 in it.
right,
Look, man,
a high roller coming through.
I got something for you to use that 401k on. You ready to see this?
Yeah,
The Ford
yeah.
Bronco DR is a $200,000 turnkey V8 powered Baja racer. Either of your dreams or nightmares. Does this say dreams or should it say creams?
I, it should say creams because I mean, dreams is good and all, but nobody dreams about a $200,000 Bronco. No, I mean, don't get me wrong, this thing's cool, but this is still part Bronco. At $200,000 shouldn't be all tube chassis, shock, and fiberglass. You know what I mean? That's a lot. That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but man, look at some of the goodies they had on there. We're looking at some photos here. Obviously, if you want to see the photos, you can check out everything that we're talking about in the podcast underneath in the description below. Follow the links. Come and check out what we're talking about here, especially if you're listening to the podcast. It's well worth your time to pop that open and follow the links below. Coy, this thing is, in my opinion, it's gorgeous. It's a work of art. Is it worth $200,000? That's a little bit more in your range. So I'm going to defer to your judgment
I mean,
here.
who's to say? I mean, it's $200,000. I don't understand how it is, honestly. But I mean, if you're going to pay someone to build a Baja truck and then all the parts are custom, whereas I'm assuming these DRs are going to be kind of off the shelf parts or something. This has multi-matic shocks, which is
Mhm.
really cool because the way they work, the shock fluid is in there, and then all the valving and stuff, like witch magic happens, and it changes thousands of times per second, and they're supposed to be super awesome. Uh, and that's all I know about these shocks, but they're ultra advanced, crazy shocks that come on these things. But here's things that bother me, like look at those tie rods on that Bronco. This is a
Yeah.
200,000. Go back to the picture. $200,000 Baja truck with tie rods that look bone stock.
Yeah.
See, things like that bother me, but the actual frame and body panels on this are actually actual Bronco stuff. So it's kind of a legit, it's not a street truck, obviously, but I mean, it's a, I don't know exactly how Baja classing works, but this is not a tube frame vehicle. Like it's caged up and whatnot, but it's not a
Look at that.
one-off fiberglass shell over. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Not a Maverick.
factory gear knob.
Yeah. And it has a Coyote V8, which Ford claims that they were never going to put a V8 in the Bronco, but this is technically a Bronco that they've put a V8 in. So liar, liar.
Are you thinking this could be a little bit of a test bed? And also, some of these things, like those tie rods, you're saying that bumped you. At a certain point, is that a testimony to how good the Ford Bronco stuff is, or do you think it's just this company skimping out?
I honestly have no idea. No idea. But here's what I'm kind of thinking is going to happen with these. Because as I understand it, Ford is producing these, right? This isn't a third party, right?
I thought it was in conjunction with.
But I mean, it may be a third party, but it's in conjunction. Ford is releasing this more or less.
Actually, you're right. Yeah, Ford Performance is releasing
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So I don't know that only 50 of these will be sold. So I honestly don't know that many will be built, but I mean, if they were making like 200 of these, I would almost wonder if they're going to try and start their own class of like Baja desert truck, stadium truck or something.
Mhm.
Because this isn't something that any guy with a Bronco couldn't build. I mean, you V8 swap it, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what they're trying to do is start some kind of Bronco class. That's just this, spec Bronco truck, I should say, like a spec desert racing truck in the Bronco. But honestly, I have no idea what they're doing. They're only making 50 of them. This could just be them buying publicity too. I mean, it's gonna be
Sure.
cool. It's gonna be in every magazine. I already talked about this on the off-road podcast. Like it's making the rounds. Just like Ford's marketing on the Bronco is insane. I'm not surprised at all if this is basically just a marketing stunt.
But man, Ford has on the lead up to the Bronco, they did some seriously cool marketing stuntish stuff. You remember the Broncos rolling into the what's the Easter Jeep event?
Yeah, Easter Jeep Safari. Ford offered to pick that Jeep up out off the cliff on those bicycle trails, which I don't know what
Mhm.
they're going to do, but I'm assuming it was a Bronco that like eh, they are careful to release Bronco information every 2 weeks that gets in the media. Like
Mhm.
just think about the last 2 years, you've had big Bronco news every 3 weeks for sure.
Yeah,
Like
you're
it's
right.
every sometimes less, but I'm gonna say average every 3 weeks. And at first, it was just like little tidbits because we didn't really know. Like, oh, it's gonna have a manual transmission. Like little tidbits, boom, 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 here and there. Until now, it's just like crazy. Like they got to obviously ante it up. Bronco at SEMA, and now it's like boom, this. So I'm thinking this is mostly marketing stunt. Like, I mean, obviously they're gonna make 50 of them, but this is just them forcing the Bronco in the news.
Right. And I still, by the way, fully contest that if Ford had been able to work it out, that dude that got his Jeep stuck on the bicycle trail, the best thing Ford could have done was just roll over there with like 6 dudes, big, weightlifter, like power lifter dudes, and just rolled that son of a bitch off the side and been like, "Here's the keys to your new Bronco."
I always said they should have like because they were talking about using a helicopter. I thought Ford was saying that they were going to offer to get it out with a helicopter. If I remember right. I felt like they're going to use a helicopter to airlift a Bronco with a big winch up there and then pull it out that way.
Yeah. Either way, it would have been the marketing stunt of the century.
Yeah, it would have. I feel like Jeep would have swooped in at the last second and just been like, "No, look, man, we'll give you a brand new Jeep if you let us get it." Like they would have cut them off at the pass, right? Like they had to, right? Like they're just like,
Yeah.
"Look, just because we're on top of the mountain doesn't mean we're going to let you guys do this kind of stuff."
The Jeep CEOs have been like, "Hold the fucking phone. We're not no, you don't get to do that." Well, look, man, speaking of publicity stunts, you're gonna have to tell me whether or not this one's a publicity stunt. Personally, I think it's very cool. It's the return of the rotary, but maybe not in the way that we expected, Coy. It is the Crichton CR700W motorcycle. And this thing looks bad to the bone. Like, I'm not a super motorcycle guy. I know that you've been into the bikes in the past, but this thing looks like one mean motor scooter.
So I was actually talking with a buddy of mine about this thing, and he's kind of an everything guy, but he has 2 bikes, so he's knowledgeable about bikes. And he was like, "Really, a rotary bike? Hopefully they did something to make it reliable." He's making the rotary jokes. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, I mean, maybe, but it has 220 horsepower at 10,000 RPM." He's like, "That's not that big a deal. Like, I have like an old YZ 1000 that has like 189." I'm like, "Oh." I was like, "Well, this one's 200 grand." He's like, "Yeah, my Yamaha's like 6." I was like, "Oh." And I was like, "Well,
Yes.
this one only weighs 285 pounds." And he's like, "Oh." So this thing's all cool and all the specs are kind of whatever until you get to the weight. 208, that's, 285 pounds lightweight. And like a Ducati Superleggera V4 is 338 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that justifies an over $100,000 price on this thing, but it is ultra lightweight. I mean, obviously, Andy and I are not ancient men, but I remember back in the day, if you dropped your sport bike, you had to find someone else to help you tip it back up. 300 pounds, I could probably pick the front of that up and get it in the back of a truck and then pick the back up. Like, I could almost load that into a pickup by myself.
Yeah, I agree.
Under
And
300 pounds. And there are people more manly than me, straight up pick that thing up and put it in the back of a truck. 285 pounds. That's crazy.
so one of the things I found interesting was the engine assembly itself is only 53 pounds. With the 6-speed gearbox attached to it, it comes in at 95 pounds. So the engine and gearbox of this motorcycle weigh less than 100 pounds. You have to admit that is pretty impressive.
That's crazy impressive. And you got to think there are certain aspects to this bike they can't really make lighter. Obviously, this company doesn't produce tires, so they can't put some kind of special lightweight tire on it. I'm sure
Mhm.
their whatever racing tire it is as light as possible. There's only so much you can do. I mean, the fairings, sure, I'm sure it's dry carbon fiber, but everybody else can do that too. Like, it's pretty crazy and a bit of a feat of engineering at this point, I think, to have a under 300-pound bike. Like, it wasn't long ago, and most dirt bikes weighed significantly more than that. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think this thing is really fascinating. The reason why we're talking about this is because I just find it fascinating that people are still finding good uses for the rotary engine. People think that the rotary engine is like it's this ancient technology. No one wants it, no one uses it, but there are still some applications out there, and it's not like technology has stopped for the rotary engines either. We've continued to see better and better ceramics for the apex seals, hardened faces for the rotors and for the rotary housings. I mean, there are technological advances that still make these engines viable, whether we really realize it or not. And that's the part of this I find so interesting and fascinating. Also, this bike was developed by Brian Crichton, who was a 3-time British champion motorcycle racer and now motorcycle builder. And so this bike comes from a long lineage of this man's engineering, starting out in racing and then moving into the engineering side. So when someone like that is developing a bike like this, you have to know that there's something special there.
Yeah. And honestly, as special as it is, I kind of put this kind of thing in like remember the Y2K jet bikes?
Mhm.
They were like 100 grand, super cool. Uh, they're just rich guy toys. Like, this is somebody's going to buy this. It's going to go to the track once a year. You'll probably, I mean, you might see one of these on a track here and there, but I mean, these things are going in rich guy garages. Like, this is literally in the kind of garage where the bikes are in the living room. Like,
Mhm.
it's a work of art. It's basically an art piece at this point.
Stuff like this, in my opinion, it's sort of like the automotive version of an NFT, except for it's actually going to gain value. You're not just throwing your money away at like, a print of J-Lo's ass or something. Stuff like this, you almost instantly, because it's such a limited production run and because it's such a specialty bike, even if you just, you know, like you said, park it in your living room, start it up once in a while so that you don't seize the apex seals. If this thing's running and driving in 25, 30 years, I guarantee it's gonna be worth 3 times the value.
Yeah, I think you're thinking along the right lines there. Just crazy thought experiment. Do you think if you could go back in time and stop the ever evolving pollution laws on motors in the late 90s, if you could have put a hold on those
California,
for
carb
if you
laws
go
suck.
back and get rid of carb, make it so it never happened, but the federal laws were still there, so it was just a the pace of the ever increasing pollution control, I guess you should say, would just be slowed down. I honestly believe that the rotary engine would be a lot more technologically advanced right now. Like it would have had a couple more generations. You think?
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but at the same time, here's the inherent problem with the rotary engine. It's not, "Oh, boost goes in, apex seals comes out." Like, it's not all of the jokes that people throw out there. It's the fact that it essentially runs like a two-stroke. No matter how you slice it, rotary engines use oil. That is just the way they operate. They need oil to run through the gaskets, the oil rings, the apex seals. So just in the inherent design of a rotary engine, they use oil and they run better when you run like a two-stroke mix in them. And so therein lies the problem. You've got people that are going 10,000, 15,000 miles on their engines, normal engines, V8 engines, whatever. It's not good for it, but they can do it. I mean, technically, theoretically, you can go 150,000 miles on a Chevy small block. If you're changing the oil every 10,000 miles, the engine's not going to be better for you doing it. I mean, it's going to have a lot more wear on the parts, but it's also not going to fly completely apart because you've now run it completely out of oil because you didn't realize it was using oil. If people were competent enough, and again, no emissions laws, if people were competent enough, let's say that there was a handle on the gas station that said two-stroke and rotary only, and it had a 50-to-1 oil mix in it. Game changer. Rotary would be everywhere, and it would be amazing. If, people have to check their oil every 1,000 miles, make sure they're not getting low, and do, more maintenance on the rotary engines like you really should to keep them together, that I think really is the clincher. I think that ultimately would be the reason why the rotary really would not have a mainstream following, but still a hobby following, you know?
Uh, Once again, I can't disagree with that. So,
That's because it's the truth, and you can't
I
disagree. Facts don't
I
care about your feelings, Coy.
an argument could be made that Mazda could have figured something out with, a 14B, whatever the next generation could have been. But I mean, they really discontinued it, I think, because they couldn't get past emissions laws. I mean, because obviously they'd been making rotaries that fell apart for what, 15 years
Yeah,
at that point, and it didn't bother them too much. So there's no reason they could have kept making rotaries that exploded in Infidium, but eventually with Kia and all the cheap, Hyundai, all those cheap cars kind of coming up that started getting reliable, I think they would have had to address the reliability of the rotary engine. And I don't know what that would have been. Maybe they would have just had, that thing would have held 4 gallons of oil.
mhm,
I don't know. Maybe they just overfill the crap out of it with oil type thing, have a giant oil reservoir so that even if you were getting your oil changes every 10,000 miles, you'd hopefully have enough oil in the thing still to keep it from coming apart. I don't know.
yeah. We, added 10 quarts, you're down to 3 quarts, so you're right on track. You're right on schedule.
Yeah, perfect. Or maybe, if I was a car company, I would get an oil change light that literally just across all the gauges was just glowing like red and blue so that you just had to go in and get that stuff changed because it'd drive you nuts. Maybe a beep all the time too, like a fire alarm beep, just a chirp, light flash a couple times. 30 seconds later, chirp, light flashes a couple times.
Yeah, you'd have a lot of people going behind the dashboard, clipping wires, using Sharpies and stickers over the light. I'm just saying, I don't see a world where they could really get away with that. Now, had they kept it very, very performance minded. Like imagine the RX-8 came with, still the Renesis rotary engine, which, a lot of people complain about the Renesis, but from what I've read, from a performance standpoint, the Renesis really was actually pretty good. A lot of people still use the rotors and housings out of those because they are very good. But just imagine instead of going the RX-8 route, they had gone like a fourth gen Mazda RX-7. Like imagine FD, but taken to the next level, maybe like a mid-engine or something like that. And ever increasing those incremental numbers. We had 320 horse, now we're going 350. You're tired of 350? Let's go fucking 380, baby. By the way, the Evo, it's starting to catch up with our RX-9. Now we're making it mid-engine and it's all-wheel drive, and obviously the cost would go up exponentially, but it would have kept it out of the hands of the normal user. I forget what the RX-8 came in at, but I want to say it was like mid to high 20s. And so that put it firmly in the range of the soccer mom. And I think that's what really killed it and gave it the bad reputation it has.
That's possible. On the other hand, I mean, just take the latest generation of Supra. How often do you think the guys that drive those check their oil? Those are 80, 90 grand, you know?
I would dare say that they check it more often. But again, the Supra, that's kind of what I'm saying. If it was a, you know, uh, curated sports car, I think you would get a different class of people that are checking their oil and stuff. And then,
I'm sorry, but at 90,000, 80, $90,000, it kinda is a curated sports car. The Mark, what are they, Mark 5 now? So, like, I'm just saying, like, it's the cost to entry of a Supra, and I'm not talking about the good Supras, I'm talking about BMW Supras here. Like, it's 80 grand. You know what I mean?
you're just reinforcing my point is all I'm saying. The RX-8 was so cheap that you had people that had no idea how to do the maintenance on it that were getting them. And if Mazda had shot higher than that and said, okay, we're going to produce a $60,000 sports car, it's got 400 horse, I think people would have paid a little bit more attention to the maintenance and stuff like
Oh,
that.
see, I'm arguing against that because 'cause I'm saying these guys buying these $80,000 Supras, they're they're checking their oil never. They just go in when the light comes on. Like, I don't see those hoods getting popped.
But
Like, honestly.
it's a piston engine, and so it doesn't use as much oil as the rotary does. So
Yeah,
it's
you're right, but I'm just saying I don't know that a higher cost to entry, you'd think that it would be more the passionate driver that would get those, but just because you can afford it doesn't mean you're into it. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. I don't know if that would change that much. It would change some, but I don't know that it would have done what they needed.
I am curious what kind of person you think is gonna be buying the Olaf this week, Coy?
Well, me after I win the Powerball. In case you're in a state that doesn't have the Powerball lottery, it starts out at like 25 million and you just, sometimes it goes up to damn near $1 billion. I think the highest it's been is like $750 million winning.
Yeah.
So I fantasize about that quite a bit. And hello, Darwin.
Let's go ahead and get into this Olaf. It's something you sent me, and I wanna check it out. Oop. Overland is fucked! So talk to me, my friend. What is going on here?
This is a rally raid prototype buggy. So think a desert racing buggy, crossed with an F1 car, crossed with, I don't know, a submersible submarine. Like, it
I was
is
gonna say a
awesome.
potato, but that's fine too.
The cockpit's a little roundy. I get where they're going with the F1 stuff. This thing is hideously ugly in the best way ever.
All right. So looking at the photos of this, uh, I don't even know, dude. Like seriously, it looks like a jet fighter cockpit that's been sat on uh, I don't know, a 1-ton chassis. You know what this looks like is it looks like someone who put a fiberglass body on their Chevy like 2500.
Well, it does, except for those like 24-inch long travel king shocks sticking out front.
There is
Yeah,
that.
it has a crazy look. It looks like a super quality type build, but is uglier than all get out. but like I said, in the best way, it has I believe it said a 4.8 liter longitudinally mounted V8
It's a
with 6-speed
4.2.
transmission.
It's a
Oh, sorry.
4.2, and it uses the manual transmission out of the Audi S4 a couple generations back. Not a bad motor at all. It's a great motor. Really, really good, strong gearbox. I've talked about this a number of times, but I mean, dudes are putting 1,000 horsepower through those pretty easily. So I think the bones are really there. It's going to be a high revving, all aluminum, dual overhead cam, wide offset V8. So this thing is going to sound absolutely bananas when it's screaming up to 8,000 RPM. I think
It
that right there is probably a selling point for me.
doesn't have a price listed. I'm guessing hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's a full caged, kind of a trophy truck type, or not trophy truck, but like trophy buggy,
Mhm.
but hideous, but awesome. Like, it looks like something that should be out of like an 80s budget action movie. Like, this thing
Mhm.
rips up in like stealth black, but Van Damme gets out of it, you know? Has a bunch of stupid like James Bond gadgets. It kind of has that look.
This is very Total Recall-y.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. I was thinking like Van Damme and Street Fighter.
Ooh, uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, like he rolls
Oh,
up to fight Bison and Major Bison in this thing.
or Time Cop.
There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
time something like that. I don't know. Like if there was a 1994 Transformers movie, somehow this would be in there. You know what I mean? Like in
Yeah.
some parallel universe. Uh this company also makes like the Le Mans style prototype race cars. This looking through their website, this appeared to be their first foray into off-road vehicles. I'm not guessing that they're going to sell a lot, and I'm also guessing that they're not going to win a lot. But
Yeah,
man,
no.
it's
When you look at this vehicle and they describe it as a futuristic styling look, uh,
well,
instead of looking futuristic, this actually looks like something super old. Even the paint scheme makes it look super old. Who was the car builder, Coy? I know I'm gonna get hate for this, but it's late here. I'm tired. The car builder in the 70s that did all of the crazy looking like bubble top vans and shit. The guy that built the Munsters cars.
uh, damn it, I can't remember the name either. I know what you're talking about though.
It looks like something he would build. Actually, what it looks like is something that
Yes.
he would build that was then, lost in Mexico for 30 years, and then someone found it because it was being used as a drug mule car, and they brought it back with the intention of restoring it, but it'll never be restored because it was just too hideous and nothing worked.
This looks like what people thought the future would look like in 1987. You know what I mean? Like, it looks
That's
futuristic,
yes.
but not right now. It looks futuristic if I was in 1989. I mean,
This
it
looks
kinda has a
futu
look if you
it
had some
looks
kinda
futuristic. If it was in a movie, Coy, it would look futuristic if instead of a green screen, they were hanging me from wires and then projecting onto, like, a big screen behind me.
yeah. So, oh,
Alright, you're back. We
I don't
lost
know
you
what to
for a
say about
second.
this thing, man. It's something else.
Eric Ures
Oh,
says, "Whoever designed this needs to be punched in the kidneys and brainstem." I think they already have been, quite frankly, because this thing is hideous. Now, let's talk performance for just a minute here. I mean, what do these look like? 35s, 37s, the tires?
they gotta be at least 35s. I'm guessing they're 35s.
And like you said, super long travel. I forget what that V8 makes. I want to say it's in the high 300s, low 400s range. And again, it's going to scream. So, as far as horsepower goes, probably not too bad. And again, this is a racing company that has designed this, but the aerodynamics do not look appropriate for an off-road vehicle. So, let's pretend for half a second that you actually got one of these and you were trying to race it. would it do well? Yes or no?
Oh, I do not think it would do well against other stuff. But Andy, if I got one of these and then I put kit car plates on it, would I drive this everywhere? Like I would go get groceries in this. I would be in every parade. Every little kid would see that. And dude, I'd dress up like Iron Man or something. I don't know. I'd pick some crappy, I'd dress up like Wolverine and drive this thing around. I don't know what I'd do. I'd dress up like in a full fighter pilot suit, get like an old like 80s Russian MiG one. So it has all the all the little straps for the leg compression stuff is super visible. I'd get a full on like MiG fighter pilot helmet with the oxygen, mask on it, and just hop out of that thing going to get my groceries every day. I drive this to
This
work. I drive this everywhere.
this might actually it maybe should have been our Fab-Sui because it's not going to kill you, but the more I look at it, the more I realize it could just eat pedestrians wholesale.
Oh, God, yes. You're gonna be fine. You're in a full cage Hans device, the works. But yeah, there's no curb you can't there is literally no curb you can't jump.
Doesn't matter how high, it doesn't matter how far, we're coming to get you. All right, speaking of the Fab-Sui, let's get into this one, buddy. This is something that I sent you, and personally, I think it's gonna be a little bit of a mixed bag. I have not come up with a number yet. I have no idea. I've put 0 thought into, what this was gonna do. Oh my gosh, I have to say this real quick. Eric Uber says, "Loudspeakers playing Danger Zone" by Kenny Loggins. Yes. With that last vehicle, could not agree
1000%
more.
it.
Yeah, could not agree more. So we have a Monster Craftsman GT is what the advertisement says with a 3-cylinder Geo engine. I have an old Sears tractor with a 3-cylinder Geo engine. Does not run. It has spark and motor turns great. It's a great project. Take it away, $150 firm. So we're looking at this thing. It's a
Wait,
lawnmower.
where is this at? I mean,
It is in Pembroke, New Hampshire.
damn it. Damn it. So it says it doesn't run. Does that mean the motor doesn't run, or does that mean we do not have a way to get power from this engine to the rear axles?
So it says does not run. It has spark and the motor turns. So I'm guessing that he just can't get it to fire. Which I mean we've had that problem with the Geo Metro before. We've been there before.
Oh, yeah, I actually may be able to fire this right up for him.
Right.
My only I'm looking at this. What is it chain driven? Like what's the drive system in this? You know what I mean? Like oh my god, it's belt driven. That's a pulley right there, isn't it?
Yeah, let's get a little bigger image here.
I am near certain he's got a belt drive situation rigged up. That's definitely a pulley on the end of that. Oh, and I
Yes.
see a belt. So it's belt drive. So he's got some kind of what I'm assuming is a CVT situation on the side of this Geo Metro engine.
I don't think so, Coy, because
So
these older lawnmowers, they were belt driven, and the way you would engage the quote unquote clutch is you would let off of the brake pedal and it would let a or excuse me, it would force a pulley into that belt, which would give it tension, and that's how you got them going, remember?
yeah, that could be how he's running it. I feel like it would immediately flip over on you, but worth a try, I guess. And so what a horsepower are these things? What were these? 75 horsepower? These old 3 cylinders? I mean, were they
Yeah,
at
I think they were 65 or 70 horse, which is a far
somewhere?
cry from the 18 that it was making when it was original.
And to be fair, I don't know that they don't rev high, obviously, but I mean,
No.
if you can run out a 3-cylinder engine, like compared to a 18 horse Briggs, like those are made to run at a set RPM where the 18 horsepower is. This thing, I mean, you're gonna have some travel in that engine. Like it's gonna be at idle. You're gonna let the clutch out. You're gonna be able to floor it, and it's gonna go. Whereas the original one, you let the clutch out and you revved it up, and it accelerated a little bit. Now, also, I mean, there are turbo kits for
Mhm.
Geo Metros. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, we could boost this thing, no problem.
And when a motor is this exposed, do you really even need a turbo kit, or would you just chop the exhaust off wherever it is, throw a turbo somewhere in that line, and then force feed the air back into it, right?
I'm gonna be honest, since this is a mower, and I understand I could probably get all the stuff to turbo this little guy for $500 off of eBay
Mhm.
and slash Amazon, or I could go on down to Home Depot. I could buy whatever the Home Depot brand leaf blower is, fill that with gas, mount that right on the side of the hood. Maybe I'll put it behind me. I don't know. And plumb that right into the intake, fire that thing up, and then I let the gas out and I have two gas pedals. One's my boost pressure, and you know, I get that trigger right there, and I actually actuate that trigger on the steering wheel. I don't know exactly how I'll do this, but you know what? There's no boost lag then. I can just hold down, like, I control the turbo. Like, I'm gonna just give it more air.
So I saw something on Facebook Marketplace here in Florida the other day that I found really interesting. It was one of those old Zex dry nitrous kits, and it looked to me like it was complete. Those dry nitrous kits, I mean, they don't need much. They have a single solenoid just for the nitrous, and they rely on basically your engine running a little rich, anyways. You add some nitrous to it, and it leans it out and gives you more power with the nitrous. It was a $200 kit, Coy. If I could talk them down to 150 on the nitrous kit, and then maybe talk this guy down to $100 on this lawnmower, I could be in this thing for $300, and I honestly think it would have a solid 100 horsepower at the rear tires.
25 shots gonna get you around 100 horsepower, man.
We'd
I don't know
probably
how
we'd
much
probably do like a 40 jet.
I don't know how much nitrous would blow up that motor, but I know how much I'd use, you know, as the old saying goes. Uh, yeah. So I always like to let you go first, but I mean, you get this? What's your body count? I mean, this thing's
Boy,
cheap.
I have not put any I put 0 thought into this week. I'm gonna have to let you go first because I'm honestly, I'm at a loss for this thing. It is so scary dangerous, and I don't have a scenario put together yet.
So this is once again, it's a tough one for me, Andy, because it's $150. Like I said, I'm buying this. Like if this was local to me, I would sign be like, Andy, finish the show. Bye. Like I asked. If that would have said within 3 hours of me at this of my location, I would have left right now to go get it. So
Right.
that being said, like I'm for sure I'm gonna try and talk this guy down to 100 bucks, but I'll give him $150. Like it's not a big deal. Like I don't at that I'm not gonna argue. Like it's I just you know what? I might not even talk him down just so I can get it home faster because I don't want to have a lot of conversation. I want this at my house now. Um, like I said, I love your dry nitrous idea. Uh, not bad, but it doesn't really go with the patina and the whole geist of this. Like I'm keeping it in the lawn garden center. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I'm going with my blower, and I'm gonna upgrade. I'm probably actually gonna spend a little more on the blower because I've been wanting one of these, not for actual use, but for fun stuff. Have you ever seen the blowers? They're like a backpack leaf blower, but they also double as like a pesticide thing. They have a little tank on top. You put, you know, dormant spray or something in it, and you can use that leaf blower to blast like your cherry orchard or whatever. You just walk around, you can spray and mist this stuff up in there.
I have seen that, yeah.
So I'm gonna get one of those. I'm gonna put that on the back of there. Obviously, I'm gonna top that off with super premium gasoline because I'm not gonna just force all this air in there and run this thing too rich.
Well, but hold on a second, Coy. What if you filled it with methanol?
I'm gonna have to get an air fuel meter, honestly, and kind of work a little bit of this out. I'm not really 100% sure, but I could, could be methanol, could be
Mhm.
alcohol. I don't know. I'm probably gonna go through a couple, couple Geo Metro motors, but luckily I'll spend another $100 to get another one, and it looks like there's 4 bolts that hold this down and a belt. So I I feel like I could probably change this motor. Well, I'm not sure if that hood like snaps down or flips forward, but I'm pretty sure I can change that motor in under a half hour. And I'm being generous. It might be 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I know it will take me longer to get to the junkyard to get another Geo Metro motor. And if God so help me, it's still made it to a transmission, it's for sure taking me longer to get the transmission off than it is to put it in this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So straight up, I'm gonna have the backpack blower. Could be alcohol. Honestly, it's probably gonna be race fuel or something. E85, probably E85. I feel like E85 is the right thing for that. I'm gonna start with E85 and move on from there. I don't know what kind of horsepower numbers, but I'm adding air and fuel, Andy.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So I feel like 25 might be a little low. I feel like on the top end, I'm probably gonna push 150 out of this thing.
I think that's right.
I honestly think with a good blower and me injecting E85 into that stream, I'm gonna get to 185. Obviously, I'm gonna have to fine tune it. There's a little valve on the side of those by the trigger that you turn to get how much, uh, atomization you want and how much your parts per million. So I'm gonna have to dial it in, and it might take me a motor or two to get it dialed in. But I think I'm gonna have 150 in this thing, and I think what's gonna happen is I'm gonna be driving this thing in like a Thanksgiving Day parade, something cool like that, local festival parade. Obviously, I've got a little wheelie bar going on. I'm doing some burnouts, I'm throwing candy to the chitlins,
Mhm.
I'm doing my princess wave, elbow,
Mhm.
elbow, wrist, wrist, having a good time. Uh, obviously, I'm gonna do probably towards the end. The cops are there. I'm gonna do a cookie in front of one of them. So I'm gonna start spooling up my gas powered turbo. I'm gonna add fuel. I'm gonna dump the clutch. I'm gonna get that thing going in a circle. I'm gonna lose control. Clearly, trigger gets stuck. I don't know. I'm gonna jump a curb and I'm probably gonna plow into the cop cars that I was doing the cookie in front of. They're sitting there. Boop, boop, they're blocking some streets. I'm gonna
Mhm.
get into a cop car. Now, the bad thing about running the homelit blower and it getting stuck down, I've now crashed. I'm blowing raw E85 and air out, out hard. I have it duct tape, duct tape and plastic into the air intake on this thing. It's coming off. Now I have vaporized E85 surrounding hot surfaces. I mean, I don't know how hot a Geo Metro motor gets at 150 horsepower, but I'm just saying I don't see a radiator. So if this has a radiator, it's small. You know what I'm saying? This
She's air
thing,
cooled, baby.
this thing's glowing with a capital G. I'm flailing. I'm trying to get up. I'm trying to let the blower turned off. So that thing's just I'm whipping it around. Fuel is going everywhere. All right. And basically we got ourselves a Moab situation here. Mother all bombs. It's called a fuel air bomb. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get a bunch of fuel in the air. Boom. Two cop cars are gonna sail away from me. Now I'm nothing. I no longer exist. My
Yeah.
soul has been vaporized, Andy.
Yeah. Speaking
Like
of atomization, you're literally just
I've literally created a fuel air bomb out of an old lawnmower and a orchard sprayer slash blower. I'm literally out of God's sight and his love. Okay. I'm gone. I am gone. Uh, these two cop cars that I crashed in between, I don't know how far they're going. Fuel air bombs are fucking dangerous. Ask any firefighter. These things are going at least 40 feet each direction. They're blocking a street. There's people in camp chairs on the sidewalk, and these cars just went sideways into them on fire. So, number one, I think we get 10 feet into the sidewalks. Are we counting people under 18 or do we only count voting bodies?
no, we have to count the children too. The women and children do count in this scenario.
Okay. So I'm getting 10, 15 feet onto each side of the sidewalk. I probably took out 7 or 8 on that side, probably 12 on the other. It was a little bigger family, smaller children, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Uh, plus the two cops. Then the cop cars, they're full of ammo and stuff. They explode, obviously.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting probably 30 people, 35, you know, 36
Wow.
counting myself. I'm going to go 36 that I take out with this. There's a lot of variables. I don't know how packed the sidewalks will be. Maybe the cops have ride along.
Mhm.
I'm obviously going to after I crash, people are going to rush towards me. So I'm probably going to get a couple there. I don't think a 35 is a high number for this and a
Mhm.
fuel air bomb scenario.
No, I 100% agree. Wow, that is quite the scenario, Coy. Wow, 36, that is a steep number. I honestly don't
Counting
know how I
myself.
could even keep up.
Counting myself, obviously.
You have outdone yourself for sure, Coy, for sure. Let's see here. That was good. I don't know if it's quite good enough because now that you've talked about this, I've had a chance to really kind of, grasp everything. And I'm thinking about this, Coy. So, I picked this thing up. I'm not doing anything else to it. No radiator, no nothing. I'm just gonna take it as is. No wheelie bar. Like fuck it. I have this unique perspective now because I am a Florida man. And like we were talking about before, we're allowed to drive golf carts on public roads here. Okay. So it's a weird kind of a scenario because now I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, hey, if I put some headlights and some taillights on this, why can't it be a golf cart? Like, who's really going to stop me? That's what I'm starting to feel like. You get me? And
Yeah.
so I'm cleaning this thing up. I get it all running good. Now, here's the problem. Um, I went ahead and I got that nitrous kit because I felt like that was the right way to go. Nothing against your blower with the fuel atomization. I mean, that's a really smart way to go, but I'm old school. I'm an OG. So I'm going to go ahead and just go with the nitrous setup. And I think that that's going to be a good way to go for me personally. So this thing is going to get all running. I'm going to mount that nitrous tank right on the hood because I want everybody to be able to see it. There's no purge valve or anything like that. I don't have the money for that. We're talking. I'm into this $300. All right, all said and done. So it's just mounted right on the top. It's staring me in the eye. Some people told me that was dangerous, but that's the most convenient place for me to mount it because I'm going through a lot of nitrous. I need to be able to pop this bottle on, pop a new one, uh, pop it off, pop a new one back on as quick as I possibly can. So it's right up front and center. I can see the gauge, tells me how much nitrous I have left. It's all about convenience, right, Coy?
I do. Who cares if you break that it's gonna go through a brick wall? You know what I mean? Who
Well,
cares?
has it happened yet? No. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So I have decided that I am going to cruise this thing down the sidewalk as a golf cart down to a local car show that's going on. It's a big car show. I mean, the car shows here are huge. This one I'm going to tomorrow is supposed to have 1,500 cars at it. So I mean, these are big, massive events. And what a clout cow this thing is going to be. Rolling in there, Geo Metro engine on a lawnmower with a big purple Zex nitrous bottle on the top. I mean, this thing is straight up for the gram, right? So I'm going to be cruising this thing down the road and everything's working fine. It's a little rattly. I'm starting to get a little worried because I mean, a few parts have fallen off, some bolts and stuff, but I'm like, man, fuck it. I'm sure it's fine. Like, what is the worst that could possibly happen here? And I see the car show. I'm coming up on it and it's huge. There are so many people there and people already have their cameras out. And I'm feeling like I'm fucking Madonna. I'm like if Madonna and Jay-Z had a grudge fuck baby, that would be Kanye. But then if Kanye had a grudge fuck baby with Mike Tyson, that's how I'm feeling. I am
Okay.
so on top of the world, right? I have more clout than you can possibly imagine as I'm rolling this thing into the car show. But those bolts I was telling you were rattling around and fell out. Well, it turns out one of them was the throttle spring. And now that throttle's stuck wide open and there's nothing I can do about it. And I'm in shock. Like there's no brakes. I've been putting my feet down and just letting my feet skid on the ground to stop because I thought, who needs it's a lawnmower. Who could have thought that I would need brakes on this thing? And I go to press in the clutch, right? The clutch assembly immediately falls apart. Like it just snaps into pieces. Look at how rusty this thing is, Coy. I should have known. I should have seen it coming. Also, I had the nitrous solenoid hooked up backwards. So instead of the nitrous going off when it grounds, instead the nitrous goes off when it loses ground. And
Oh,
one
no.
of those wires, one of those bolts that came out, it was attached to the wire. You know what? And that's my fault. That's on me. What a terrible design. I just wrapped it around one of the rusty bolts that I found. Didn't work 100% perfect, but I figured it would work well enough. Well, that bolt's gone. And now we are just raw spraying nitrous into this wide open throttle. And I can't stop, and there's nothing I can do. Okay. Before I know it, this thing is going 80 miles an hour. I literally have no choice but to bail off, which kills me instantly. I hit the pavement, it crushes my skull. I'm now dead. But now this thing has no driver. Really, the only upside to this lawnmower, Coy, is that the alignment's good. So she's tracking straight and true. And now we're heading for this car show. Oh, Coy. Oh, Coy, I can't believe this is happening. The car show. All of these people, they see this thing and they can hear it. It's running wide open. And they're like, holy fuck, that thing is cooking. And everybody has their phones out and they don't realize that I'm no longer on it. I'm dead and gone. I'm dead and gone. You said that you had been evaporated. You were completely gone from God's sight. Well, I'm telling you right now that even God's love has its limits. And what is about to happen to that crowd has given me no favor in his eyes. So it starts plowing through the crowd of people. And you can imagine, I'm taking out probably 6 or 7 people just right there because people can't get out of the way fast enough. It's like that, whoever the fuck that rapper was, where everybody got crushed at the front of the concert the other day. It's sort of like that, but except for instead of the crowd rushing forward and then crushing the people in the front, what this is doing is it's capturing bodies and then using those bodies as battering rams to smash through other bodies. So I instantly just take out 7 people, maybe 8 people, just right off the bat, because this is not a wide lawnmower, but just as it's catching like one person, all it did was it just caught their hand, but then it tears their arm completely off. Like as this thing shoots past them, their arm is just boom, gone. Like poof, no more arm. And they bleed out almost instantly because it severed all of those arteries and everything, So it is tearing limbs off faster than you can imagine. And people think, well, it's going to hit a car and the carnage is finally going to be over. The problem is when it hit that car, because of how I mounted it, I thought the D-ring, when I mounted the bottle, I thought the D-ring around the end of the gauge, I thought that would be a good idea. But instead, when this thing slams into the side of a Biscayne, that D-ring, the bottle continues to travel, and that D-ring just pops the regulator right off of the back. And now this thing is just shooting out like a missile. And it is just, it's right at head height, Coy. That's the problem.
Oh, no.
So it hit the side of the Biscayne and just went in one window and out the other. And you have all of these people that are lined up for the Emerald City Cruise, and they're all sitting in their cars. And this is just one window after another after another. We're in the South, okay? No windows are up. These are classic cars. They don't have air conditioning. So all the windows are down, and it begins decapitating people one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I estimate that it makes it through 6 heads, okay, before it finally comes to a rest, because all of those skulls, they're just piling one on top of the other. So you have this weird, it's like a skull-shaped missile cone on the end of this thing, just bone and teeth all hanging out, and it's jagged. So that's really the problem. So it finally comes to rest. I'm going to say in probably a 3rd gen Camaro, because the driver is going to be someone who, how shall I put this? Their head is maybe carrying more fat than the person who's driving the BMW, if you know what I mean.
Gotcha.
Their neck is perhaps a little more non-existent. So it stops, but it continues to just blast nitrous out. I don't know if you know this about nitrous, but automotive nitrous actually has a chemical component in it to keep you from huffing it. It makes you sick. It makes you vomit. Did you know that, Coy?
Yes, I did.
Well, this crowd of classic car owners are typically a little on the older side. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of boomers.
A lot of boomers, people who perhaps are not in peak physical health. Okay. Like if COVID were to sweep through, we would estimate 30% of them would be dead. So as this nitrous tank is emptying itself because it's lodged in this 600-pound man, just imagine a nitrous tank replacing the head of a 600-pound man, and then it's blasting nitrous out of it. That's what it looks like. People
Like
are, of course, running.
Gunhead anime,
Yeah, and people are running over because they wanna make sure that everyone's okay. I shouldn't say running, I mean, you've got a lot of, like, rascal scooters that are making their way over there. But now you have this nitrous, and it's blasting out with this chemical that's making people vomit, and all of a sudden, there's this huge crowd of people that are just vomiting uncontrollably. They're laughing because it's nitrous, but then they're vomiting. They're just puking their guts out, and suddenly you have this crazy massacre of people just they're vomiting up blood and their insides are just they're coming up. They can't control themselves. They're vomiting and laughing so hard. They're literally choking to death because they can't stop laughing. They're choking to death on their own vomit. And here's the craziest part, Coy. So at this point, we're what, 15 bodies down? Here's the
Yeah.
craziest part. Here's the craziest part. We lost another 23 people to asphyxiation because they were laughing and vomiting so hard they couldn't get air and they all choked to death. How insane is that?
That's it's insane. Absolutely insane.
I
So what is
honestly,
that total we're bringing up to? 38?
yeah, we're at 30, and that's purely by accident. I didn't plan on that. I'm not using these numbers to one up you.
Of
That's
course.
just
Not.
that's what the numbers came to. You know what I mean? I would never do something so trivial as try to just barely one up you with my body count. That's silly. So
Look, you gotta
anybody that
follow
thinks I'm doing that,
gotta follow the science, Andy. Just gotta follow the science. Like it is what it is.
Coy, the science is settled.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's nitrous oxide, man. It's dangerous. Like it's compressed liquid oxygen, you know? This is not good.
No, it's bad stuff.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
rotten egg smell, that should tell you that it's bad. But for some people, they run over and it doesn't matter. They're like, "Ew, what
Mm.
smells like rotten eggs? Let's go and check on the 600-pound guy that's had his head replaced by a nitrous tank." So really, it's not even my fault at this point. It's really their faults.
Honestly, I mean, nitrous oxide is compressed, bottled hood shit. You know what I mean? We're, we're doing
Yeah.
bad stuff. So, yeah, I am not surprised.
Ben Allred says, "Trust the science."
Ben, he's been trusting the science. He's in the hospital with COVID, I believe, as we speak. So get well, Ben. I hope we don't make you laugh and choke or anything. But yeah, get well.
Should have
Glad.
worn that third mask, you bastard.
Well, he took his vaccine, but turns out he's still in the hospital. So it's a good vaccine, though.
Well, it's going
I,
to turn him into a superhero, clearly.
I hope it does. He deserves it. He deserves to have superpowers. I think he'd do mostly good. All right,
Ben
Andy.
also says that he choked on his Jello.
God damn it. Cold Jello, obviously. Like, I'm sure they're not giving you any warm food, so that's damn, man. If you pass in the next hour, I'm gonna assume that I'm largely to fault, that you could have made it, but you started laughing with COVID, and that's what got your oxygen level. It started the
Yeah.
what is it? Mitochondria storm and
Yep.
swelling, and like I'm gonna feel terrible.
In the arms of the angels.
Remember when we were making fun of our friend Logan while he was in the middle of a horrible hurricane?
Now, to be fair, we didn't know that he was in the middle of a horrible hurricane.
Yeah, no, we did. We're what do you mean? We knew it was a hurricane. We didn't know how bad it was. Like we didn't know the body count, but we did know it was a hurricane.
Well,
Now,
if I had known that people were dying, I wouldn't have maybe made so much fun of Louisiana.
now at the same moment, we're actually making fun of someone in the hospital with COVID. Talk like this is live. Like right now, this happening. The show has literally hit a new low.
Oh, Ben will be fine. He's a trooper. We love you,
Yeah.
Ben. If you
No,
don't make it, I just want you to know that I will take good care of your vehicles.
Somebody needs to. Sorry, Ben. I would like to point out because I know Aaron. So Ben is one of the hosts of the Off Road podcast. Aaron, the other host of the Off Road podcast, he was supposed to join us tonight, wasn't he?
He was
canceled last second because of family stuff, and just too busy in general. and couldn't do our podcast because he's done it a whole 3 times or whatever now. I mean, I understand. It's like it can be hard to find time for a podcast. Like, I mean, I've guest hosted for them on the off-road pass, I don't know, 30, 20, 30 times now. So I can totally understand how that, really eats into your week. But
Yeah.
even still, Bid with COVID is commenting on the show and supporting us. And Aaron just ghosted us. Like nothing. Like, man, heartless.
That's why Ben is the real MVP, and we love you, buddy.
Uh,
Devin Gibson says, "Swing low, sweet chariot." Oh man. All right, we gotta move on past this because it's starting to get real dark, Coy. We need something to lighten the mood. Are you ready to move on to our Smokin Deal, Smokin A Doobie?
yeah, I am.
Smokin Deal or Smokin A Doobie.
This week, Smokin Deal, Smokin A Doobie, something that I found, and yeah, I'm not real sure what to say about this. Do you want to go ahead and give us the rundown, Coy?
This is a 1995 Ford Ranger 6-wheel drive, 6x6. It is I don't even really know. It's hard to explain. I also want to point out that it is also would it be 6-wheel steering, like
Yeah.
each axle independently steers.
So, seller's description. It's a 1995 Ford Ranger 6x6 stock V6 4-liter with an automatic transmission. Only 125,000 miles, Coy. Wow. Street legal. Back 2 axles are military. Military front ends. There's an unnecessary comma right there. The back 2 axles are military front ends. Back axles can be steered hydraulically while off-roading. 37-inch tires and a 60-plus gallon fuel tank. Will go any place you need to go. Runs and drives good. Hunting, mudding, jeeping, parades. Price is firm, no trades. Clean title in hand. Please do not ask if it is still available. It is as long as the ad is still up, cash only. And buddy, I think this thing is going to be on Marketplace for a while.
I don't know, man. This is unique and pretty cool. And $6,000 is a lot of money.
$8,000.
Oh, I read that wrong. $8,000. It's chump change for a lot of people. I mean, you can get a side by side for way more money. Like people drop 20 grand on a side by side. You know what I'm saying? So military axles are worth money in and of themselves. Like, yeah, this is a tough one. This is a tough one for me. Now, where is this coming out of? What state?
Chehalis, Washington.
Oh, this is fairly local to me. I should go look at it. Ben, speaking of Ben, like I know you have COVID now and you're in the hospital, but I'm assuming this is going to be up for a couple weeks and you're not going to be going straight back to work. And I know your 4Runner's broken and needs a head gasket, but assuming your wife's car, you could go check this out once you're up and running again and give us a lowdown on this thing. I'm impressed with the way he did the bed here. He just kind of cut out a L shape of the fender well from the rear tail light all the way to the cab.
I
And
like
then
his extension here too. That looks like diamond plate.
Yeah, because that is like a 60-gallon pack tank, fuel tank, Andy. See what that is? Like normally you have those to like put fuel into your dozer or something, but I'm guessing when you put 2 axles with steering mechanisms behind the cab, your room for a fuel tank gets kind of eaten up.
Yes, especially since these are both independent. What do you call it? It's not independent front or rear. It's independent rear now, but it's independent suspension, and it's military axles or Humvee axles. So are they going to have portals on them? I wonder.
I don't think they're going to be Humvee. They're going to be off something else.
Okay.
I he doesn't say, but there are. I would bet that it's off of some rear steer, something military, massive, 2.5 ton axle or something. Yes, they're
from the photos. They are independent suspension, and you can see in the photos also that they are articulated to one side, so they definitely operate.
Yep. He's got boggers all the way around that don't look totally blown out. Like they have some tread. So here's some things for me. That front bumper is so
Yeah.
disgusting. His a lot of the fabrication on this looks kind of good. Like the bed, like that's not a horrible cut and everything. Obviously fabricating in independent rear suspension that steers, like that it
Mhm.
clearly works, so it can't be that bad. The front fender flare and front bumper thing is atrocious. I don't even know what's happened. Like it disgusts me on
Well,
multiple levels.
let's
But that's
just say
fixable.
that this dude likes straight lines. How's that?
I, yeah, that's fair. He
Here's the
doesn't like
rear steering
wedges.
mechanism, Koi.
Yeah,
Look at
it's literally like the up down switch from a Harbor Freight electric hoist.
yeah,
Like it looks like he took that out of an electric dump trailer or something. So
but
there's a
do you
lot of stuff
notice
that I don't like.
hey, do you notice the arrow though? And he has like penciled lines to let you know, and the arrow is pointing forward or to one side or the other to let you know like where the rear tires are at. That's kind of an interesting little addition there.
Is that what's going on there?
Mhm.
Oh, well, I like that. So that, makes me believe in his fab skills a tiny bit. Now
Bumps it back just a little bit.
it doesn't say engine, doesn't say transmission, doesn't say transfer case. Like there's a lot of unknowns here. I don't know if he got a military truck and frame and put a Ranger cab over it or if he fabbed this into a Ranger. Like I don't know.
I mean, it says it's a stock V6 4-liter, which that is a Ranger V6 with an automatic transmission. So it kind of makes me think that maybe he's just, running a drive shaft, obviously a custom drive shaft, back to these two rear independent, suspension pods. I mean, at that point, they are kind of like they're pods, right? They're subframes. They're independent. Yes.
Yes, I would assume so. I mean, with the information we have, that's all I can assume. I've seen guys, I can't remember what vehicle these come out of. I've seen guys use these independent suspension setups like this and put them in like crawler buggy type things. They come out of some military six pack deal. I haven't seen them in rear steer yet, so I'm not really sure what all goes on here, but
Mhm.
I think this is pretty cool. Now we got to break it down. $8,000. Like, what are you paying for these axles? Like, these are military axles. They're going for $800 a piece at least, right? So
Right.
there's three of those. A Ranger, a low mileage Ranger, you're going to pay what? 3 grand for that. So you're into it 6 grand if you try to build this yourself, right?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, we're not counting consumables. So his ask, I feel like his ask is more than what he really has into it, Andy. I do. Or what he should have
Mm,
had into it. I mean, he's got 3 axles. He had a Ranger with lowish miles. This is a fucking 95 Ranger. It's not worth nothing. He might have paid money for it when he got it, but nowadays he doesn't. If I were to take this, he doesn't have 8 grand worth of parts for me to get rid of. He's trying to recoup all his money. You know what I mean? He's got 8 grand invested in this and he wants it all back. This is the cardinal sin of building a vehicle that we talk about, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Like like he wants to get his money back out of it. Uh and maybe the fabrication is well done, but it's hideous in a lot of ways. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to drive it. 8 grand is too much for me. Like, I think he's trying to get all his money out of it. Now, I don't know how well or how badly it's fabricated. There's a lot of unknowns with this. I don't know what these axles cost. I'm just guessing $800 a piece. It could be 2,000 each. I don't know.
Mhm.
But that all being said, even his rear bumper is just gross.
Mhm. I like
Yeah,
this. Darwin says front bumper looks like the lip on a on crankbait. I don't know what that is. Devin says Bubba Gump bumper. He's 100% right there.
yeah. Honestly, this looks like a Florida man truck, Andy. Like I'm surprised it's in Washington, which makes me kind of go see it.
Oh, Ben actually brings up a good point. Probably replace the gas tank with hydro stuff. I wonder. I mean, if this is a hydraulic, it has to be a hydraulic steering system. But if it's not running off of the power steering pump, which I assume it wouldn't be, you must have some auxiliary systems there as well, right?
See, that's why I kind of was wondering if it actually had a Ranger motor and transmission in it. Because
Right.
is he really getting like a PT? Is this? I'm assuming if you got a hydraulic pump to steer this thing, I mean, most dump trucks and whatnot, those are PTO driven.
Hmm.
Now, it's not impossible, I suppose, for a Ranger to have a transmission that could have a PTO drive in it, but I've yet to hear of it. So I don't know what he's got going on. Now, if he had this thing up, Andy, he's asking 8. He knows he's not going to get 8. He's hoping to get 6. If he had this up for 4, I feel like me and a bunch of other dudes would be going to look at it and we'd have trades in mind. You know what I mean? Like, look, man, I got a 1983 Toyota pickup. It runs. It's on 38. It's got a little rust. Like, we'd have stuff in mind. He'd be getting calls. His messenger would be blowing up at 4.
Yes.
At
Yeah.
8, dude, at 8, I'm not feeling it. I just there's too many unknowns to be fair. But what's your take?
Yeah, I agree. I personally think he's probably got quite a bit more into it than 8. I mean, just looking at it, I'm thinking, what would it take for me to put something like this together? I would assume he's probably 10,000 into it. But again, like you were saying, the cardinal sin is trying to recoup your money out of a project, especially a fucking stupid project. One of my bigger issues with this whole thing is the fact that it's the 4-liter V6. I mean, those are not, especially in this year, those are not the most powerful motors in the world. I'm not saying they're a bad engine because they're not. They're actually very good. But like it's putting out 160 horsepower, and I do have concerns about you're now turning not 437s, but 637s. And we're not talking about gearing. We don't know what any of that is. Personally, it looks to me like it has just the regular Ranger front axle in it. Let me find a photo.
It's too
Let me see if I can. Is it too wide to be a stock, I don't know, it's a solid axle, so whatever it's out of, whether it's the factory Ranger, well, I guess the factory Ranger would have been independent front suspension, so you're right, it's out of something else, but it's not a military axle, I guess is my point. So, again, coming back around to the unknowns of not really knowing what all's gone into this thing, how is it all powered, all of that. When you said this will probably sell for 6. That is exactly where my mind was going. 5,800, something like that. I think that's what he's gonna have to settle for. Um, my number on this is probably gonna be $3,000. Like, if it was 3 grand and it was an hour from me, I would definitely go and look at it. I would be very curious about it because, again, this would be a great mud truck. It honestly would be a lot of fun to probably take over the dunes and stuff. I mean, now that I'm living on the beach, I'm thinking a lot more about that. Like, we got dunes around here. We have an ATV park. Like, something like this would be fun to be able to take out there. I'm not going to be taking it off of any big jumps or anything, but it would be a riot to just drive around. And if it is street legal, or if it could be made street legal, I mean, this thing would be fun to just cruise around in. Again, I have
It
concerns about
says
it having
street
enough
legal.
horsepower.
I have concerns about the horsepower. I see this thing could possibly be a freaking amazing snow rig. The
Mm,
flotation of 6 tires with independent steer, depending on the weight of this thing could be legit most badass, coolest snow rig ever. I mean, obviously, too many variables, but and 60 gallons, dude, like, that'll get you quite a ways.
mhm.
Uh, I think it's cool. For me, my number's kind of around 4 where I go to take a look at it. I don't know that I'm paying 4 for it, but I go look at it at 4. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people do. Yours is 3, so he's asking 8 though, so, I mean, this is a solid dupe for me. I got a dupe it.
And
It's cool though. Cool.
we've got quite a few people watching right now, and I want you to drop in the comments and be realistic about it. Don't say something shitty like, "I wouldn't give him any money. He'd have to pay me to take it." Like, don't be shitty about it. Tell me, what is your bottom price? Think about it logically. If it was parked next to you, your neighbor had this thing, and it just said best offer. What would you go and offer him? Drop it in the comments. I do want to know. Also, if you're listening to the podcast, drop it in the comments. Come over to the Facebook page. Let's have a discussion about it because I really am curious. I do put this in a doob category, but it's one of those weird doobs where I'm kind of looking at it going, once he gets realistic with the price, could it come down to a deal zone? But you know what? I'm breaking our rule. It's what price they're asking. Is it a deal or doob? And you're right. This is a solid doob. I do not see the value in it at $8,000. I don't know, man. If it like 5,800, I would believe somebody could buy this. For me buying it personally, 35. that's kind of where I'd land on this. You're right though. This thing, now that we've gone through it, and I see you, Devin. He's saying that this would be a Florida man's wet dream, but you brought up a good point, Coy. This would be a mad snow rig. This would be a fantastic snow
Very well
wheeling rig. Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, if you didn't want to use the rear steer, I'm betting you could rig tracks around those 2 rear tires and make this thing into a half track.
Bro,
Like, it's halfway there.
bro, I just
Did I
got a
just bump
semi chub.
did I just bump you up to 4,000 now to get you
It depends. How much is it going to cost me to get some Bobcat tracks?
dude, I'd get some conveyor belt and some angle iron and make my own. Seriously, if you actually look at some of the, like, 80s snowcat, it's conveyor belt material, just straight up.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Looks like Devin's coming in at 4,000. Benjamin's coming in at 6,000. So I think we're right in that ballpark, Coy.
Yeah, man. For me, this is I have to give it a doob. I think it's really cool, but this is I'm gonna do a new thing here. This is a doob that I keep an eye on. Like, I watch this. I wait for a price drop,
Alan O'Neill says 4,500 just because it's a fucking Ford Ranger.
Ford fucking Ranger.
So that's it, man. That's our dealer doob for the week. Again, if you guys have any thoughts, if we're way off base and you think is it worth every penny of $8,000, let us know. If you wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, also let us know. We always want to see those comments and hear those comments. So hit us up. But for this week, that's all we got.
Smokin Deal or Smokin A Doobie.
Well, Coy, it is good to be back doing the live show, man. I missed doing this. I missed interacting with everybody out there. We want to thank everyone for coming and joining the live stream. If you want to check out the live stream, we're a little bit, messing with our schedule here, but hopefully we can get in a routine where I can start at least telling people, a day ahead, hey, we're going to be going live. We'd love for you to come and join us over at facebook.com/the horsepower hour. And of course, the group, facebook.com/groups/the horsepower hours, where you're going to come post some of your own stuff, interact with us, interact with other people that love and listen to the show. We have a really good time over there. We try to keep everything fresh and fun, and no doubt are going to have some more giveaways coming up in the next month. And everybody wants to talk to Coy.
What? Okay. Fine.
I'm just saying, if you want to interact with Coy, all you got to do is jump over into the group, say, hey, Coy, I got beef, and he will jump on and he will laugh in your face.
I hope you do that. You can trash talk me as much as you'd like. I have fairly thick skin, both literally and physically. Even better place to trash talk me is in the comments of the live show. So it's fun. Gives us more to talk about. If you want to talk trash, you want to disagree, you want to agree, you want to make fun of my stutter, you want to play a drinking game. Every time I say you do a shot, you'll die, but I mean, still, like, you can do something. So, and also I want to thank all the people in the comments today, and Ben, please get better, man.
Yeah.
Praying for you.
Yep, we're all pulling for you, Ben. Hopefully everything just turns out a-okay and you gain some cool superpowers, man. Maybe you'll like shoot spaghetti out of your cock or something.
I'm assuming it's bat powers because COVID, but
oh, right. Yeah. One more thanks, Coy. Santa Ana powder coating.
yeah. I actually hung out with Roy a little bit this weekend, and couldn't be a nicer guy.
And the quality work, you guys, it is unparalleled. If you're anywhere near that Willamette Valley area in Oregon, you have got to check out Santa Ana powder coating. That is facebook.com/Santa Ana powder coating. His phone number is in the description of this podcast directly underneath. If you have any powder coating needs, be sure to hit him up first and only, because they're your one-stop shop for the best quality powder coating. And we do thank them for being our summer-long sponsor. Coy, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up, man. Thank you for being here. Everyone out there, thank you for tuning into the pod. Thank you for telling a friend about it. It really is what keeps us afloat. We could not do it without you guys out there supporting us. So thank you so much for that. Thank you at everyone working behind the scenes here. Thank you for Alan O'Neill for letting Coy know that Black Rifle Coffee just released their pumpkin spice edition. And for Coy Forticus and Masterson, Junior Senior Esquire Duke of Earl Grey, this is Andy. We will see you next time. All right, that is the end of the show. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next week, right, Coy?
Right, man.
All right. Talk to everybody soon.